Today's guest is Chase Gallagher with CMG Landscaping. At only 22 years old, Chase grew and scaled a landscaping company to 7 figures a year at the same time as taking up real estate investing and building a rental portfolio, flipping properties, and even starting a coaching consulting business to help other guys with landscaping businesses that want to scale like he did. Chase is very active on social media, and we talk about all things related to leveraging social media to share your brand, share your message, connect with more people, and ultimately grow your business. I'm thankful for the following conversation. To support this podcast, please like, follow, and share. So you're 22 years old. You've done all of this stuff in business already. You've got your hand in a lot of different things, and you're all over social media and everything. How much does social media tie into that?
Into my businesses, I mean, like social media is an everyday activity like you were to brush your teeth. So it ties in multiple times a day, every single day. And social media is like the reason, like we were just talking about, it's all about relationships. And so the more you can focus on posting on social media and just getting your brand and videos and if you're a small business owner, turn the camera around, smile to the camera, and tell people what you're doing that day and just post it. It's super important.
Did you think that was awkward when you were first starting? Because I hear people all the time, they're like, oh man, I'm just awkward on camera. I feel like a douche doing it.
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
110%. I look back at my first couple serious videos, and they were horrible. It was me you could barely hear me, or I was just talking about something random. But that's how it is. Like when you first start going to the gym, it's always going to suck in the beginning, and you definitely feel like a douchebag in the beginning.
Yep.
And then you just get through, obviously you grow a following, then you get the hate, and it's just you know what? You just start, it doesn't even bug you at a certain point, because then you're just like, I'm doing me, dude.
Nah, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the best phrases, right? Is you suck at everything when you first start, and you keep doing it enough, then eventually you'll not suck so much that you're actually okay at it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's, I tell people all the time and try to encourage to just do something on social, because there's how much of your business would you say has come from directly or indirectly from social media?
So for the past 2 years, I did 0 paid ads. Mostly 0 paid ads. I mean, my marketing's my t-shirts and the truck wraps. So a lot of it has came from Facebook, COVID era. My business was a lot from Facebook, me posting, me responding. And then, you build so many client bases that comes, word of mouth. So, I mean, one example, this spring, we did a job for an influencer, NYC Fit Fam out of Westchester. And that was a 50, 60K project. And I mean,
Nice.
That was, we were in contact with them and her team for over a year. She wanted, we worked out a promotional deal type of thing. But it ended up being a great project. So that's just one example. There's tons. I mean, now we're almost integrating the social media to where we run ads on Facebook and Instagram. These people will see me out there with Beth, my client, getting a video testimonial. They'll follow my Instagram. They'll follow me for a couple of weeks, months. They end up calling me. We do estimate, and they don't call anyone else. And so, obviously, that's very valuable.
Absolutely. So I'd love to dive into that with you too. So you said, the truck wraps, all that type of stuff. So that goes hand in hand with branding, right? So what is your philosophy on branding?
I mean, the philosophy is just be a clean, neat, company. So you see me in a polo shirt, this is what I go to my estimates with. This is what I try to go to all my meetings with. The trucks are all the same. They're white Ford trucks with the same type of wrap. So everything looks clean, neat. The guys all have the same type of uniform. So myself, my project manager, we try and wear the polo shirts on site. And then the foreman and the, labor team wears a different style shirt. So there's just little things like that. My overall thing on branding is you can't do enough of it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So what does that mean for you? When you say I can't do enough of it, are you constantly thinking of how can I take this to the next level, or?
So yeah, when I said that in my head, I was depending on how much you want to spend, right? Because there's unlimited opportunities for me to
Truth.
go out and spend on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, like billboards. As I'm driving over here, I saw like the one lawyer firm has like 5 of them stacked up, and I'm like, that's branding. Like they can just throw the money at it and it's their write-off and they got it within their budget. So that's one of the big reasons I like went all in on social media. I was a young business owner. I had the leverage. I just delegated the time, an hour and a half every single night at the end of my work day, and would make my videos and post them. And it gave me that branding and the marketing for like no dollars or, you know, close to $0.
Yep. Yeah. No, I love that, man. Because a lot of people just associate branding with, like you said, it's not a call to action, right? It gives people the awareness of who you are, but it doesn't drive them to an action that's going to close a sale, right? And I'm a direct response marketing guy, right? Like I spend ridiculous amounts of money every month sending mail or doing any form of other outreach.
Call to action type stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like I've done plenty of branding stuff as well. Not nearly as much as the direct response marketing.
Right.
But I think it's interesting for you, like with what your offer is, right? Like what is your average landscaping job? Like what's the average?
If I were to average it out, it's probably 12 to 15 G's, you know, because we have a bunch of those 5 to 8, and then we have like those 30s and 60K jobs. So, you know, 15 G's is probably our average project.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, right? Yeah. And yeah, I think especially being local and being like the go-to guy that everybody's seeing all over social and everything, it's like, I don't know. I don't look at that the same way that I would look at branding for other industries, right? Where it's letting people know. I guess the way that I'm thinking about it here is there's probably not a whole lot of other people that are doing what you're doing, right?
Especially in my industry, you know, and we can kind of figure this out. Like most of my competition, there's tons of young guys and I'm buddies with all of them, you know, but most of the industry, whether it's plumbing, like home service business, I would think is majority like 50 plus. And a lot of those guys like can just log on to their Facebook. They don't, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, in a way,
they're
like,
not immersed in it.
Yeah. So in a way, it's like, I wasn't like calculating this in my head and be like, oh, but I just was like, listen, I know how to work Instagram. I know how to turn the camera around. I'm just going to start posting videos. So yeah, in a way, like that's a huge advantage for myself.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how landscaping, like how did that come to be?
So, and I just want to say one more thing on this subject too, and I definitely want to answer that question. After doing this for about a year or two, specifically, like just posting 3 times a day, you start to build a following and an audience, and now it like leads me into other assets for my business and revenue generating. So now I'm a sponsor, like I'm a brand ambassador for other companies, and I promote them and educate my audience with their products. And as well as like, if you think like private equity type of vibe, where I'm going to go sell CMG landscaping to someone, and you realize the cost of like acquiring a client, you know, at least for the past 2 years has been like on my P&L next to 0, you know, that makes your company obviously way more profitable, and then you can sell for a higher multiple. So if you know, it's definitely a long-term strategy, the organic social media promotion. It's a couple years, but once you really start gaining traction for a home service business, it's key. You know, it's a whole nother like avenue, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. So with that, love to open that up. Like the cost to acquire a new customer for you right now, it's near or close to 0.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, we just started doing like paid advertising 2 months ago. And I think like on Facebook, it's $22, and Google, it might be $32.
To generate a lead.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
How much have you really analyzed the crap out of that data to see how many leads it takes to convert to?
Yeah, we just went through that 2 weeks ago, and obviously, like as someone that never ran paid advertising, I was like, well, fuck,
it's different,
this.
man.
Yeah, and I was like, well, god damn it, I spent $7,500 in the past 3 months on total from paying my marketing guy and the paid ads, and I brought in like 14 G's worth of work.
Okay.
So technically, I paid out of pocket like $3 or $4 grand, right? Because I don't profit 13 G's.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, but I'm just like, you know what? I can float it right now. And like, you know, I talk to other marketing guys, and they're like, well, you just got to like do it for a year, do it for this. So I'm just going to continue, and we're going to critique. So like, you know, we dropped Google, I think, and we're just doing like Facebook ads where it's like me with the client, because it's like the brand awareness.
Yep.
So yeah.
that probably makes it challenging for you having the past that you did and acquiring customers for $0 because it makes it even more frustrating
Right.
to see, yeah, man, I'm just kind of pissing money away on this campaign. And it's painful sometimes, right? Like I've had a couple campaigns where, yeah, we're dropping 10, 15, 20 grand a month. And I know in the back of my mind that, yeah, man, I got to let this thing run for at least 6 months, have enough historical data to look at and
Right.
give it a fair shot and maybe make tiny, tiny little tweaks along the way, right? But after month number 1 or month number 2, and you're like, dude, I spent, in your case, yeah, I spent $7,500 and it's like, all right, yeah, we brought in revenue, but this is nowhere near as sexy as what I do over here with our organic stuff, right?
Exactly. So you start to think like, damn, so I'm just trying to like, I keep thinking like I want to go more and more on organic and grow an audience and stuff like that. And that's where our world's headed. But either way, how I looked at it in my head, and I would love to get your opinion on this, is like we did like 1 to 1.2 last year, just doing like no paid advertising.
Okay.
And I feel like to get to the multi-million-dollar mark, I'm gonna, within the time period I want to do, which is a year, you know what I'm saying? You have to start pushing paid advertising.
You want to do what within a year?
Go to the like 2 million, and then
Okay.
next year add 1 million or whatever. So that was my thought process. I'm like, all right, I'll start up paid ads and see what we can do over the course of a year. Unless you had any other ideas on how.
I mean, I'm always all for maximizing what you have before jumping on to the next thing. So it's like, do you feel that you are maxed out with what you're doing organic and with branding? Like, is there any way to further scale that without doing some form of direct response marketing?
Yes, I'm sure there is. There's definitely pockets I realize in my business, like just doing simple follow-up. Like maybe we did a project 2 years ago for a client and we haven't really chatted with him or her. And so like, that's where I'm looking to hire a salesperson that like solely delegates, solely focuses on like everything from sales to follow-up to like just calling and chatting, you know what I'm saying? Getting coffee with our clients or something like that. Cause I'm, like we mentioned in the beginning, I'm doing real estate, I'm doing social media, I'm running, a business and stuff like that. So I was looking for a person almost.
So right now, all the sales is you.
No, it's like we kind of switched it recently because I'm trying to like literally sit in my home office and just grind on like, the like higher up tasks, I guess. So my project manager now is running all the estimates, and he's done this for the past 2 or 3 years. Most of the time, like in the springtime when we're like all hands on deck, I'll do all the estimates. He'll be running job sites and stuff.
Okay.
When it slows down, he's trained, and we have a whole process where he does the estimates, and he takes a video, lets me know the time, materials, and then my assistant will type the whole thing up. I'll review it, and we just send it out like that.
So I love sales processes, right? So walk me through that, right? So you or your project manager goes through, they figure out a scope of work with client and everything,
Yep.
and then you're coming back figuring out the costs of everything, right?
Yeah, he'll give me like we do daily rates or half days, and so he just has to put in like this project will take this much time. He does the square footage, like let's say it's a patio. I know how much hardscape material and stone it's going to cost me, so things like that. So like how it starts from the initial process is a client will call CMG Landscaping, or they fill out one of our paid advertising things, or they'll go on my website. Either myself or mostly my assistant, she does all the scheduling. So like Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do our estimates. She'll book him up and like do the GPS to where it's like makes sense. So we're not driving back and forth.
Figure out the best route.
Yeah. And then, right now Wes will go out, do the estimate, within the same day, get me the materials and stuff like that, or Corey, my assistant. And then, she'll type it up. I'll review it, put the pricing on it, and we just send it out like that. And she does most of the follow-up. So that's the process.
That was going to be my question. So when it goes out, you're just sending an email to the client, and then what? Are you just waiting for them to reach back out to your assistant or to your...
Yeah, or to the business. Our current rule is wait 48 hours, and then we call.
Who calls?
Corey.
Okay, which is your assistant?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, Wes doesn't do any follow-up calls. It's kind of hard because, he's in the field, like also getting stone or just kind of running around. So Corey does all the follow-ups. We try to focus on like Tuesdays and then follow-up Friday where you just bang the phones. And I also want to start getting back into the realm of like just doing follow-up and just trying to get to like, why aren't you buying my product? You
Yeah,
know what I'm
right,
saying?
absolutely. And now I don't know that it's worth even going down this rabbit hole, right? Because like, do you feel that you have a high number of bids that you're sending out that you're either getting ghosted or just getting,
100%.
Yeah.
Like every business owner feels like that.
Sure.
I'm always trying to improve.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
So my direct feedback to that, just hearing like what your process is, because it's somewhat similar to, like we make an agreement with somebody verbally over the phone. We're going to buy your house for X amount of dollars and everything. Cool. I'm going to draft up a document. I'm going to send it over to you. And I know because we tested the crap out of this before. It's like if we just send over a DocuSign agreement, like the chances of them either ghosting us or trying to renegotiate, or it just takes another week to get back on the phone with them to review it.
Right.
Like it's terrible. The simple change that we made is we call first and we say, hey, Chase, you got a minute right now? I just put this whole thing together. Are you by your computer? No? Okay, that's fine. Do you have a smartphone?
Right.
Wonderful. I'm going to send this over to you and open it up while we're on the phone. That way, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to go over, we can talk about it now.
Right.
So it's like, it adds that level of personalization and care, right? And legitimately, if there are any questions or areas of concern, cool, let's get it out of the way now because, it's general sales knowledge that if people are confused or they just don't understand, they run. They don't
just
make
go
a
and
decision,
hide. Yep.
right? So if you can minimize that in any way, shape, or form, I think that's probably a really good, easy way that, like, how many bids are you sending out, like a week or a month?
A week, it ranges between like 6 to 15.
Okay.
And then just times that by 4. I mean, obviously that's in season, so that's like
Sure.
8 months out of the year. So, but that would be a very easy thing to
That's
just
super easy,
just
right?
like-
Because you got to call anyway, like you said,
Right.
48 hours after sending it. So instead, just flip it around. I call first, get them on the phone and say, hey, I'm going to send it over now. And if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. And then if you do that and your assistant is the one making the call and she starts to get some sort of sales type objections or whatever that you would be able to
better
handle,
to
but she
handle.
can or whatever, cool. Now you implement another little tweak in your process. And then maybe you do have a salesperson that's doing that outreach, you know?
Right. Or like maybe she could, set up a time for myself and the client to like chit chat or something.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, we should. I'm going to try that.
It certainly can't hurt, right? Like,
Right.
because that's the thing. Like, you said the landscaping business is doing like 1.2 to 1.4.
Last year, yeah. So we'll be between 1.6 to 1.8 this year.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's the thing. Like, when you're doing those sort of numbers, it's like closing 5% more of the bids that you send out is massive, man. Because it's like you already spent the time, effort, and energy sending somebody out to do the bid. Like, you're not charging for bids, right?
We do.
Do you?
So it just depends on the location. Like I had a person contact me that's out near here. So we do charge, depending on the location, a $100 consultation fee that then comes off the price of the project.
Okay.
If it's more local to my area, Downingtown, Westchester, there's no consultation fees.
Got it. With that, like, how far out do you go right now?
So we do the whole main line. Like we've done like one job in Conshohocken. We obviously do Coatesville and then everything in between.
Got it.
King of Prussia, all that main line area we service. And it depends on the time of the season and we kind of critique that. So like, let's say we're only 2 weeks booked out. Then I'll have it say, hey, Corey, let's not charge consultations for the next 2 weeks or whatever. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the springtime, it gets tight down to like, I remember during COVID, it was like, I made like $1,200 1 week just charging consultation fees. And it's
That's
not like
not bad.
technically it goes to like the fuel of like a couple trucks. You know what I'm saying? But
totally understand. Yeah. No, that's good because having the ability and the mentality to not be super, super locked into something, like, I think that's one of the benefits of being a smaller company, like 5 million and less. Because it's like these bigger companies, they do have procedures and processes that they can't break. It's like, we do this every single time, no matter what. And a lot of times that hurts them, right? Like guys that don't have, 100 people on staff and been around for 30 years, we have the ability to pivot and maneuver, right? So that's
and
a
like
beautiful
literally
thing.
just do a training and implement that 100%.
Yep, absolutely, man.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. So talking about growth, talking about doing more and everything,
Yeah.
you're doing some things, you're testing out some direct response marketing because you want to grow. Now, I don't know because I don't run a service-based company or anything, but is it more feasible to grow by expanding outwards or just doing more volume in the areas that you already are?
Is it more? Well, it's definitely more feasible and easier to do more volume in the current areas that we are. I've looked into doing like, acquiring like maybe a company in Allentown, Voorhees, New Jersey, and then like over the course of 5 to 10 years, I have 5 businesses, each doing 2.5 to 5. You know what I'm saying? And
Got it.
kind of, but like if I want to go for like efficiency and profitability, it would be a way easier to like hound my market and do bigger projects within like, Chester County only.
Got it.
But it just, I guess, I'd love to get your advice. Like, do you want to stick at 2.5 million and be, make, I don't know, $1 million, or do you want to go to 5 and make 1.8 or 2? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that all depends, right, on preferences and everything. But
Yeah.
I've thought a lot in the past, like in my business, in my industry, like what makes more sense, going deeper or going wider, right? Like, because a lot of the places, we're in 15 different counties right now with the wholesale company, right? So
Wow.
it's like sometimes we get properties under contract that are 2.5 hours away. It's like, I certainly don't want to flip anything that's, actually, I'm just finishing one right now, so I'm my own worst enemy. But I don't want to, right? But people have asked me that same question many, many times in the past. Like, why don't you just focus on Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County, and maybe some of the South Jersey stuff that's just right over the bridge? Like stuff that's only like a 30-minute radius of home base and everything. And my answer to that was, well, the marketing that we're doing, that we're focused on, it is easier and more scalable to go wide than to go deep. Like if you can look at your data, which is one of the things that I love about direct response marketing is massive amounts of data that you can look at and make decisions based off of. If you can look at it and say, all right, well, we sent out 10,000 mail pieces this month, and this is how many phone calls we got. This is how many leads it generated. This is how many leads it took to convert into a contract and everything. Cool. All right. Now you have a historical data set. Now, if you try the next month and you say, all right, that worked great, right? We got a 5x return on ad spend. Let's double it, right? Let's send 20,000 pieces in a week in this area, this county.
And that's how you scale.
But the results don't always scale in a linear fashion.
Right.
Right?
Because you can only pound a market so hard. And
Are we already hitting everybody as much as humanly possible? Like, are we at that point of diminishing return? And unfortunately, you never know until you get there, right? But that's the big piece of marketing. It's just a fancy word for testing. So you just got to test this stuff. But like ultimately with what we were doing and the marketing that we were focused on, it was easier to go wide rather than to go deep, But now with the service-based company, I understand all the implications of that too. It's like, all right, you got guys, you got trucks. They don't want to travel 3 hours away in the morning and then 3 hours on the way. Like it just doesn't work. It's not.
And the only reason we do mainline is because like now we solely do project-based work. We do not mow any lawns. And so I can kind of like, it's kind of covered in my daily, hourly cost of my guys to drive 45 minutes and then drive 45 minutes back. If I were doing lawn mowing, I'd be like, how close could I get? Yeah.
Do you have no desire to do any of the lawn mowing type of stuff?
Absolutely not.
No?
So I sold that side of my business when I was 18. It was the best decision I ever made. I talk about this in all my social media, and that's what I coach in my coaching program, CMG University, is how to get rid of low profit, agony style, service to your clients. You're gonna go out to a person's house and you're gonna try and sell them on a $45 service, right? You might make $1,200 that year or whatever, versus my resources and assets are going out to try and sell like average ticket of $15,000.
Sure.
So I got out of that and got into project-based work, which is way more profitable. Now you have to know, like, you have to be a good marketer and salesman to keep the projects going in July and August and, February and March. But overall, you definitely make way more money per day, per week, per month.
So what was it that helped you get to that decision?
I was working for, who's now my project manager, Wes. So when I was 16, I did like online high school, went all in. Once I got my license, I was like, I'm just going at it. So I was like 16, doing my own like business. I had 17 lawns, and I also was working for this guy, Wes, through connections. And I was just like, it wasn't like he was like, yo, this should be your plan, dude. He was just always mentioning in the truck while we're going to the next lawn, like, oh, like this mowing stuff. I've always wanted to just do like project based, or just get the, this type of machine and just do that. And like, I just sat there and listened. And then like, you just kind of formulate your decision, I guess. And a couple of years, 2 years later, sold the lawn list, sold all my lawn mowing equipment, bought a dump trailer and a compact tractor. So I was 18, went into John Deere, and this is per Wes. He was like, yo, you got to buy one of these. Like, it'll be the best thing you ever did. And I was scared shitless because I had never had like real debt.
Sure.
And went into John Deere, and like I had my business like EIN for, let's say, like 3 or 4 years. And they let me sign. I was 18. They let me sign all business credit on a $30,000 machine, $500 a month. And literally myself, a helper in that machine, could make me $1,500, $1,600, $2,500 in revenue in a day. Versus like lawn mowing, we'd be maxed out at like $1,200.
Yep. No, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. That's
how I got to project-based work.
okay.
And now it's gone way up from that. So like I have like a total of a 6-person team. Some days, depending on the project, we'll split the crews, a 2 and a 3, and then obviously my project manager, Wes. That's how you get to 6. And or other times when we're doing those 15, 18, 30Ks, we'll bang out like I think we did a $48,000 job in 5 days this past season, plus another 2K. So we did 50K in revenue like in 5 days with a 6-man team.
Yep.
Obviously, that's like my best week thus far, and you have the low weeks, but that's the potential in project, like just doing project-based work.
Does that fire you up?
110%.
Yeah.
I love talking about it.
Yeah. Nah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So with making the decision to get rid of the grass cutting,
Yes.
right? I guess you would just call it grass cutting.
Yep.
Was that actually something that you sold or you just stopped doing?
So I sold the lawn list to a buddy that was also like, owned a lawn care business in my area. A lot of guys always talk about competitors and da-da-da-da-da. I never, like, since, 13, I never even looked at people as competitors. Like, I always wanted to be everyone's friend, and that's how I met Tony with ATG Landscaping, and he bought my lawn list for 5 G's. He handed me a wad of cash, and we did a deal where it was like, I'll send my list out to my client. Like, I'll send an email blast to my client saying, hey, here's your new service provider, same price. He knows the ins and outs of your property. And then I let them know, hey, we're still going to be doing landscaping projects. So that spring, I was like scared because I was like, who knows if Tony's going to just steal all my clients and all the business. He still holds true to this day. And my clients still did the spring cleanups. They even asked me, hey, do you do this? They would, send me emails. Hey, do you do this? And I just literally, like, I didn't know how to build a patio back then. I knew how to do spring cleanups, some basic drainage work. And then I would just like do a little bit bigger projects. Like my first hardscape project was a walkway. And then I built literally a guy's patio that's half this table so he could just set his grill on. And it was just kept leveling up from there.
So the first time that you got a big project that you didn't know how to do a lot of it, what went through your head? Fear?
Fear, 110%. So there's a great project. I think I was 19. It was like a year after I started this project based. I did this guy's spring cleanup the year before, and he was like, yo, he texted me. I did this, it's like direct marketing. I did a text blast in spring. I texted like my 300 clients, and I remember I had an app and I was like adding each of them, and did this text one morning, and I ended up getting like 12 estimates out of it.
That's awesome.
It was crazy, and like that 12 estimates back then probably led to like 25 grand in work, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I did a small project for this guy. A month or two later, he was like, yo, come over, I have another project for you. He like brought me in his garage table, and he like went through this whole design and this whole project, and he's like, it was a 50,000. I ended up charging him like 52 G's for this project. It was like tons of trees, a patio, and all this stuff. And I was just, remember, I was scared shitless, but he was like, can you do it for cheaper? Because he had the person's price right there. And I was like, yeah. And like we did it. I got some deposit money, and that was my biggest project. And so just through like being a person in a community and making connections through Wes had to end up selling his business and go and work for a bigger like company. But he would work for me on the weekends. So these bigger projects that I needed that machine at, or maybe both of them, or some expertise, I'd pay him to come on for the day and do that. And that's how we like fully completed that 50K project. I remember I probably didn't make that much money. It was like 2.5 months long. And yeah, that's what we did.
But you made up for it in experience, right?
Exactly.
So many people undermine that, man, and put like no value to it. Like, especially in real estate, like I hear people all the time like, oh, I did this project and I only made like $10,000 on it. It's like, for one, that's still not bad money if we're talking about a project that you were in and out of in a month or 2 months or something. Yeah. But what did you gain in experience and knowledge and learning what not to do, learning what to look for, learning, you know, how to grow as a person, as a business owner, as a leader, as a whatever, you know?
Little things like if you can learn how to like on these flips, if you can learn how to just save your time, like, you know, not going to Lowe's 15 fucking times to get like a, you know, these little pieces and stuff. And you're so right. As I do more business, as I buy more real estate, it's like, you know, if I could give anyone a recommendation out there, like it is worth getting coached or just being around that experienced person, because especially in real estate, you can save yourself tens of thousands at the small amount, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Totally. It's always been my perspective with real estate, right? Like when I first started, I hired a mentor, and I guess I was like a little cocky, right? I was like, I don't really need this or whatever, but I did it anyway because I knew myself enough to know that even though I had read a shitload of books and everything, like I had been going to networking things. Yeah, it was on Bigger Pockets for a year, you know? It's like, I didn't think there was, naive, right? I didn't think there was too much more to know at the time, right? But I found this mentor anyway. And at the time, yeah, I think he wanted $5,000. And
no brainer.
Yeah, you know, but at the time, $5,000 was a lot for me too. You know, I'm like, oh man, I don't know. But I knew that at the very least, put everything else aside, even if I did know everything there was to know, which is not ever the case, right? But I just knew that for me, that would make me commit and take action. Like there's no fucking way that I'm going to spend money on something and not make a return out of it. There's just no way.
What were you doing before real estate?
I was in manufacturing.
Okay.
I was in manufacturing, and then, my world changed when me and my, at the time, girlfriend were 20, turning 21, and she got pregnant, and I was making decent money. Like, you know, I was probably making between 60 to 80 grand a year working in manufacturing. I was in quality control, and I'm still friends with the owner to this day. Like, he's a good buddy of mine. Yeah. And, I just knew that I wanted to be able to provide more for my family. You know what I mean? So
you
got
it was
that
like, urge when you had a kid or was about to get
Yep. That lit a fire under my ass, you know?
Right.
And yeah, from there I think I ended up leaving my job like 2 years after. I started flipping houses and everything and started buying rentals and, you know, just kind of growing as a person, right? Growing as a business owner. And yeah, just through all that, like, yes, I hired a mentor and flipped my first house, flipped another house, bought some rentals, bought some more rentals, built a construction company, brought on a partner, went through everything along the way, you know?
I see.
Yeah, man.
How many years have you been doing it now, like real estate?
Coming up on 9 years.
Okay.
9 years. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. So, do you still do the construction business?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So a lot of the guys that were on payroll at that time, when I started the construction company, I sub work out to them and everything, but I don't do it in-house anymore.
Right.
I've thought many times about starting it back up, just kind of out of necessity. You know, it's like, there's a lot of aspects that I do love about having everything done in-house, right? I'm sure points that you'll resonate with, right? Like being able to control a timeline, being able to somewhat control a budget, control
Right.
an outcome. When you're just subbing things out, it makes it a lot harder to control a lot of those aspects. It's really hard to run a fucking business when you don't have control of things, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Do you ever sub anything out, or everything's always done in-house?
Like 95% of our work is probably done in-house. I'm trying to think of like a situation that we sub stuff out nowadays. We pretty much do everything in-house. There's probably something I'm forgetting of, but yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
And is that because you like the control aspect, or is it quality, or
Quality and obviously profit. Like
Sure.
it's, I have so much overhead a year. I think my overhead's almost 500,000. So I'm going to delegate my assets to get done that job versus like still paying my overhead and paying a sub. You know what I'm saying?
when you say 500 grand in overhead, is that including any salaries or
Yeah, that
anything, or
includes-
it's just,
that
okay.
includes the salaries, truck payments, like shop mortgage. I mean, there's insurances. I have like my whole spreadsheet, but
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. That's awesome. So tell me more about coaches, mentors. Like, who else helped you along the way?
Tons of people online. So like if we go way back to when I was 13, when I started my business, I used to watch this guy Geek to Freak on YouTube.
All right.
I don't know, like most people don't even know he's deleted his channel now, but he was literally just a one-man band mowing lawns, and he would just record himself like doing little time lapses. He would come home in his garage as he was like washing his mower. Like he lived out in St. Louis.
Really?
And he probably made like 50, 60, I don't really know. And I was like a 13-year-old, like, that's the only thing I knew how to do. Why I got started was because I only knew how to mow lawns and obviously do like chores around the house.
Sure.
And I think it was this summer going into 7th grade, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And like, I always worked, like since 8 years old, I had always done chores, saved up my money, bought my first dirt bike brand new. And I was like, loved that thing. Ended up selling that to get this lawn care equipment.
Nice.
And, but yeah, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It put a spark in me. I always wanted to do real estate, but I was like 13 with no money. So I started a lawn mowing business, passed out thousands of flyers. Like the first 2 years, that was my form of marketing, was all flyers.
Love it.
And I took Geek to Freak's flyer from his YouTube channel. You used to be able to email him. He'd respond with his word flyer. You could change it. My mom would go to a corporate job and like stay late one night and like print out thousands and then bring them home. I'd sit there, rubber band them for nights, and then we would just go like through all the neighborhoods, and I wouldn't put them in the mailbox because it's illegal, but you can put them in the flag, and that's how I got started.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, I was an early starter in getting to work too. I think I got my first paper route when I was like 8 years old or something.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you said the first thing that you wanted to go out and buy on your own was a dirt bike.
Yes.
For me, it was a guitar, man. I wanted to buy a $3,000 guitar at 8 years old, you know?
Wow,
It's like,
that's expensive.
yeah.
Did you get it?
I did. Of course I did.
Let's go.
Is there any other option?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's interesting. So like from a young age, do you think what do you think the biggest fuel of that drive was? Just having the ability to do what you want, buy what you want?
Yeah, I think, I always like a lot of people ask me that. I don't really know exactly. I think it's just the person, like it's just how I was made. I have no idea. I do like and want things, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, so I always have the urge to get what I want, I guess. And I just love I guess building. Like I still remember when I went to Malvern Bank and like deposited my first dollar. Like I was with my mom, she set up my bank account, put that in there, and then I like looked at the receipt, and maybe that was the start of like, all right, how can I get 100 more of these in here, And like I would be sitting there like begging my parents to do chores for $2. Like that's how I got my first couple grand, and then I just keep flipping.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It's definitely worth like self-exploring that though, because you got to realize even at this young age that you're at, that most people don't have that.
Right. And as I get older, like from the teens to like, let's say 2021, and I still am like that. I got that drive, but I always thought like my peers would like spark into it at some point. And now I'm on like the other side where it's like, all right, they're still like partying in college or smoking weed and like whatever they are. And everyone's path's different, but like I start to realize that not everyone has it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I realized it when I was probably in my 20s as well, but like up until a couple years ago, I was actually way more active on social than I am now. And I think a big piece of that was like, I was always kind of preachy, like, yo, everybody should do real estate. Like everybody should buy rentals. Everybody should flip houses, even if you do it part-time, because it's not that fucking hard.
Right.
Like, and I preached it, man, for a long time
Yeah.
until I realized like, I actually had a couple people that did end up doing some things. They started a business, bought a house, bought a flip, bought a rental, whatever. And in hindsight, like they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have, you know? And it took me seeing that to realize that it's like, dude, we're fucked up. We're fucked up. And we shouldn't push our mindset on other people, because if you do, and somebody takes some advice that you have, but they don't have the drive or the desire that you have.
Or the full picture, you know?
Exactly.
I get DMs every single day and they're just like, well, how can I buy my property, or how can I scale my business? And it's like, or like they'll give me, you know, a couple sentence DM and it's like, dude, to be honest with you, I can't help you, because it's more than a DM. It's multiple conversations. It's knowing your numbers. It's the marketing aspect. And that's why I created CMG University. But it's 100%. Not everyone like just gets it.
It's so hard, man. I was just having a conversation on the pod last week, and I was saying exactly that, man. I hate giving out like generalized advice, because everybody's situation is unique. Everybody's desires and personality are different and unique. And what's great advice for you, if I give to you, it may help you go from 1.5 million to 5 million in like 12 months. And the other guy that, you know, has different resources, different mindset, different desire, dude, it could fucking crumble everything that he's done, you know? So it's really, really hard. Like, I love that you realize that it needs to go a little bit deeper than that. So tell me about, so this university. So what do you have?
So through the whole social media process, like last year, I was posting more. It wasn't consistent like it is today. And then like October last year, I went to this this mastermind. My mentor, Troy Kearns, I don't know if you know who that is. He's on social media. He owns like 300 plus like units. And I went to his mastermind, and a lot of it was about social media. And I just got this little kick, and I just got into the habit. Probably took 14 days, and I just started posting every single day on TikTok, Instagram, my YouTube, and Facebook. And then I just started getting, like, I was just talking about what I do. And then I started getting all these questions. And then I had put this little link in my bio, $75, you can book a one-on-one. Got 2 or 3 of those clients. And then I was like, I'm just going to create a package, you know, create a coaching program. And that way I can get all these guys on one call every single week. They can have my course. They can have the private Facebook group. All these guys have my cell. So I sold them on multiple calls. You know what I'm saying? Because I would do one, and they'd be like, all right, well, when can we do next week?
Yeah, right.
And so that's how it all started. So CMG University started just like that, helping these guys scale to past the $1 million mark. And yeah, we've been blowing it up ever since. And helping other people grow their business.
So the guys that are reaching out to you for CMG University, are they usually already in the industry, or they're making an entry into the business? Or
90% of them already own a lawn care landscaping business, and they're looking, because like I would post how I did $1 million in revenue plus at 21, and they know the profits are higher, so they're like, all right, I want to do that. And so that's what I teach, is like how to get rid of your lawn list, how to do your finances right so you can make the transition. And then obviously the big part of that is the social media aspect, and how to like grow organically without having to have that hard ad spend. So in like a conclusion, that's what the program is. I do have one student. He's 15 years old, out of New York, had zero in January. His original goal was to make 10 grand mowing lawns this year. And I was like, dude, we're going to 5X it. So we switched his goal to 50K. I was like, yo, focus on the project base. He still mows lawns, but he'll do over $50,000. He's 15. He can't even drive a truck.
Dude.
And he's killing it. And this kid has such a personality. He's amazing.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Does that fill your cup more than what you do in your core business?
Probably. I would say yes, and I think there's way more value there as well to my client. Yes and no. I mean, I still love my landscaping. I love getting out in the field. Like, I just love it all. Seeing the before and afters, helping these people and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I love doing the coaching and helping other people like make more money and a lot of money.
Yeah, no, it's a super fulfilling thing when you're able to do it and people actually take your advice and put the things into place and you can see it make the changes. Because, dude, I'm sure you've had people in real estate also, because real estate, it's a shiny, sexy thing, right? Like everybody wants to talk about it.
Yes.
Like I couldn't tell you the number of people that I've given advice to, like how to buy your first flip, how to buy your first rental, that never fucking do anything about it. And it drives me nuts, you know?
Yes.
Drives me nuts.
You always, out of so many, right, there's the one person that's not going to post on social media 3 times a day, right? They want to go to the bar or do whatever. And so that's, you know, that's their thing. But if you can just copy and paste what I've done, it's going to work for you. And I had a student that started with me. He was one of my first coaching students, Chris out of Texas. And he was doing like 400K last year. This year he's on track to do over 1.5 million. Like he's blown it out of the park.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So when somebody comes on to CMG University, is it typically like they're in for 3 months or is it a year commitment?
6-month coaching calls. They get my 0 to $1 million course. So they'll always have access to that. And then right now it's lifetime access to the Facebook group. So they can always ask me questions kind of as like, hey, here's where I'm at. And most of them have my cell phone number. So,
dude, that's awesome. And how long have you been running that?
Since Black Friday of last year.
Black Friday. All right.
It was literally, I kept seeing all these other guys doing their programs. And that's how I was like, well, fuck this. I'm going to do my own shit.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how much time, research, whatever did you have to put into getting that all set up? Like,
so just like anything, it's just like another business. Now it's an online business. So, and it kind of integrated with what I'm already doing, posting on social media. But in the, you know, I don't know how to answer that question. We do once a week phone calls, Tuesday evenings. And, you know, then it's all the social media, it's the DMs. I'm starting to level that business up. I've met other coaches and stuff. My buddy Kyle out of St. Louis, he started a junk academy. And so he's helping me, you know, grow and scale this and stuff like that. So once you get to a certain point, you have, you know, a certain following, you're getting so many questions, then you get what's called a setter. And a setter goes through your DMs. I mean, you probably have the same thing with wholesale, like line it up for the sales guy or whatever, get the hot lead and book a call or whatever. So same in this business.
Dude, I love it. So already though, a year into it, and what are your aspirations for that?
My aspirations are just to help as many lawn care landscape business owners as possible get it, and if they want to, get into the project-based work.
Okay. That was such a fantastic answer. Like, most people would respond to that with a dollar value. I want to grow it to $2 million a year.
Right.
I want to grow it to whatever, 50 grand a month passive.
Right.
To reverse engineer it, man. That's, dude, it's such a key point that people miss all the time.
Right.
Like, if you start everything from the end and work backwards, it's like the money comes, everything else comes if you lead with fucking value. Right? If you start with, I want to make an impact in people's lives.
Yes.
I want to help people be able to achieve more, make more. Fuck what I want out of it. Like, it's going to come together.
100%. As I get older, I realize that way, way more. You know, just through experiences of landscaping, and you're doing project-based, you know, contracting's not a clean business. There's all sorts of shit that goes on in the back end. But you know, like at this stage in the game, like there's a project we're doing, and it's like, you know, you think you bid something, gonna make 5-10 G's off of it or whatever, and you end up losing money. And it's like, at this point, I'll lose $2,000 and still have my face or whatever you want to call it with that GC. And so same thing, I guess, with the coaching is like, I want to help as many people as possible. So they don't have to buy my coaching. That's how I can help them directly. But they can watch my Instagram, they can watch my YouTube, they can watch these interviews and just learn and you know, I put it all out there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, man. So I got to ask you, because I'm just starting to get some of the social stuff set up a little bit
Yeah.
and more streamlined and try to be more consistency, I struggle with, man. Like, I'm that guy that I'm like, all right, cool. Just shot some content and everything. I'm going to post 17 fucking times today and then nothing for the next couple days. So I'm using software now so I can just do it once for the week and just forget about it. But what are you using? Are you doing it all organically?
All organically.
Okay.
So, you know, I filmed a couple podcasts. I had a studio, you know, in Ardmore I was doing or just filming videos. So like that specific content was edited, you know, and sent to me in a Google Drive, and I still post it. I'm working on starting my own podcast, and so that's all going to be paid. Like that guy's we're going to go to his studio. He's going to film it, do the whole thing. But all of my stuff is organic, and I make it a point. Like it's one of those things where it's like I go on an estimate and I'm expecting dollars back. My social media is like just another habit, like brushing my teeth, where it's like I'm just gonna post it today, make sure I get it in, whether I get an exact thing back that day. I don't care, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So you said you're posting every day on
3 times a day is what I do.
3 times a day.
And what I do is like 3 reels, and then I, you know, ideally like a post. So like 3 videos and then a post, and that post can range from like me in a Lamborghini or standing in front of a jet, or it can be me buying my first big truck and like going through the details of that. And then Facebook. So that's my Instagrams. So that's CMG and Chase Gallagher, and TikTok. TikTok's big. And then now I just recently got it set up where my Instagram videos go right to my YouTube without me having to repost it. So that's you know,
that's huge,
a blessing. And then my personal Facebook is a little different. It's a little bit less. But I do mainly all, like, in my, you know, there's certain audiences for certain platforms. So I'm selling my coaching on Instagram and TikTok. I'm selling my landscaping business on my Facebook page. So it's all about, you know, the landscaping, local, just doing local stuff on my Facebook. And literally, you know, for anyone listening, you can have up to 5,000 friends on your personal Facebook account. So I go through the local groups and just go through and, like, I might not know them, but I'm just going to add them as a friend. I'm at like almost 3,000 right now. It takes a lot, but I want to get to that 5K. And like, that's a free strategy that you or anyone listening can take and get your 5,000 friends. There's 5,000 local people to Chester County. And at some point after so many posts, you're going to be the person they call.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah.
But so specifically, you're not even using a software to make the actual post for you. There's no scheduling. It's just you're hopping on Facebook. It's 10 a.m., whatever, and you're like, cool, I got this post. I'm just going to spit it out now.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no, you know, not right now. There's no software. And I know there's different ones out there where you can make one post and it's going to go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm getting there, but for the past time, it's none of that. I do use the app called Captions to put captions on my videos and edit it and like do the little thing. And now they have some really cool features where it'll zoom in for you. It'll be like Alex Hermosi, if you know who that is. It'll be like those videos, and I think it's like $8 a month.
Dude, you can't beat it. That's the same thing that we're doing with some of the podcast content, right? It's like we're uploading long form and it's automatically chopping up into 30 short form clips and putting captions on them and everything. And
so what do you use to do
they
that?
The best. That's I can't tell you on. It's Opus Clip.
Opus Clip. Is it like an AI marketed thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I think it's like same thing. It's $20 a month or something like that. I don't know how many hours of content you get or whatever. I think now I'm probably paying triple that, but whatever. Still, it's like when it comes to, there's no way in hell that I'm going to sit around and try to edit video. And for that price, it's like, every piece of content that I have had somebody actually edit for me, it's like, dude, I pay like $20-$30 for one video. So,
easily.
You know, it's so worth it. Some of the software that's coming out, is just incredible, you know, and being able to leverage that stuff.
Yes. And it's like, I was listening to Alex Hermosi the other day, and he's like, he was just going through business and comparing it to leverageable opportunities. So it's like, all right, I'm Chase Gallagher, business owner, spending my next 3 hours making follow-up phone calls. Or am I delegating that to my 2 assistants? You know, and then there's like that's a, you know, you're leveling up in your leverage. And then like, you know, he ended it with, oh, I'm posting a video about my landscaping business to my 50,000 local audience. You know what I'm saying? I got 15 calls from it, like things like that. So
yeah, no, it's You want to spend your time on what is the highest revenue generating activities, right?
Yes.
Or growth and development if it's not directly linked to revenue,
Right.
right?
Right. And
What
that's,
fulfills you.
yeah. And I put that in my head like all the time is like when I'm sitting in my office, what revenue generating activities can I do now? Like that's what I focus on. Obviously, you got the back end banking, credit card, and all that kind of BS. But revenue generating is like if you're a business owner, a small business owner, focus on that a lot. Focus, that should be the main thing. And obviously, you're going to start with edging the garden beds yourself. But and it's tough to level up. Nothing's easy to find the right labor force, and then it's tough, but it's definitely worth it.
So labor force, let's explore that a little bit. What has been your experience with hiring? Like I can just imagine that, especially being young, I had that same thing going for me when I had my construction company. I know a lot of guys, especially if they are in their late 30s, their 40s, a lot of guys really feel shitty being like, oh, I'm not going to work for this young fucking punk or whatever,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yep.
I've been in this industry longer than you've been alive, you know?
Yes.
Like, do you deal with that at all?
Like not directly. I'm sure online I've heard all of it. But and one thing I want to mention is like everyone on my team is like at least 10 years older, at least 10 plus years older than me. I don't think I don't have that issue. Obviously, you get in little stints or arguments with your team, but I have not directly experienced that with my team. I keep it super professional. These people see me in the field, out the field. They see what I go through on a day-to-day basis. And so I think they have a level of respect.
And that's fantastic, right? That just goes to leadership and everything and building a culture and everything.
Yes.
That's fantastic because if somebody didn't have a certain level of respect for you, they probably wouldn't fucking be around. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so going back to the labor force, because one of the hardest things in the landscaping or any service-based business is your labor and your team finding that. And it's not easy. But what I've found in my experience is hiring people that grew up in Chester Springs where I've grown up and, having the life that people have in Chester Springs and Chester County, they're not the ones to go and edge a garden bed.
Sure.
So I go and find like ideally Spanish speaking people that have experience in the field, and that's who I solely focus on. And if you're a landscaping company, focus on that. Don't waste your dollars and your time marketing to, people like at least in my area.
Yep.
There are a lot of they're rich kids.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
And so yeah, I wasted years doing that. And again, it wasn't a waste; it's a learning lesson.
Right.
And I love all my buddies that helped me out and everything like that. But if I could redo those 3-4 years, I would just try and rewind it and focus my attention on where I know now is working.
Yeah, no, I love that. I want to explore that a little bit more, right? The youth years and everything. So did you grow up like any siblings?
Yeah, I have one brother.
Okay.
And Justin, he helped me with my business. That was a whole fucking ordeal. I never recommend you getting into business with your family. we had a falling out, and I didn't talk to him for 3 or 4 years.
Oh man.
Now we're best friends and everything, but yeah, so that was one situation. But yeah, and
he's older or
he's
younger?
older. So I was 13. I didn't have a license, but I had this ambition, and so I needed a person with a license. And my parents bought his car, so my mom was like, "All right, we're using your car to hook my trailer up to," because it wasn't like we were driving 30 minutes. We were driving 4 big developments.
Got it.
And so originally, I hired his buddy, his buddies, because he didn't have his license in the springtime, and then in the summertime hired him, and it just got out of hand because he wanted more and more money and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back with everything?
My buddy, so I had to deal with it for a season or two, and my buddy Mike Brown, one of my best employees ever, he doesn't work for me now. He's on to bigger and better things. At least right now, but he was a year older than everyone else in our grade, and he was into the working, and I literally was as soon as he got his license that week, I fired my brother. I was like, Mike, you're doing it, and then I had to, yep, oh yeah, oh my God, it was a blessing, and then Mike helped me out, and then back then I would use Indeed, at 16 and a half I got my license, but back then I was doing Indeed and It's tough on Indeed. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know very well. I think it was after COVID, like I had probably not used Indeed to hire for a solid year or two. That was how I recruited everybody in the past. But I went through like a year or two period where I would just be hiring organically or whatever. And at the beginning of COVID, like I was growing, man. Like I was like we 3x during COVID and everything, you know. And I went back to Indeed, and I guess they changed the way that they do their billable rate or whatever. Like I just remember that I used to end up for every like interview, I kind of had it down to cost per interview type of thing, right? But I was never spending a bunch of money, you know? Like I remember getting invoices from them years ago, $500, whatever it was.
Wow.
And yeah, during COVID, man, I guess they changed their entire model, and I probably just didn't read the fine print, you know, because why would I? And I think we had job ads up for like 2 weeks, and I got an invoice for like $3,700 from them. I'm like, fuck, we need we need to turn this off, man. And it's not even like I was getting good applicants. It wasn't like I got bombarded with like 150 good applicants or anything. It was like they basically started billing like per. It wasn't even per applicant. It was like per employee lead or something. It was ridiculous. It didn't work. And I have not used them since. So.
Okay. That's a good. We just started Indeed back up this week, and I've gotten five applicants.
That, right?
I didn't put a credit card in there, so I got to check to make sure my assistant didn't put
just
one in
make
there.
sure. I'm sure I just missed something stupid. It was probably like I didn't drill down enough on like the requirements or the demographic that we were looking for. Like I think we were even getting applications. Like obviously we have an office, we're an in-person company and everything, and we were getting applications across the entire country and everything. So I was like, oh, that's not what we're looking for. So it
you
is
live
what
and
it
you
is.
learn.
Live and learn. Yeah. I've had a lot of stupid mistakes like that it's like, man, just lit a bunch of money on fire, but that's how we learn.
That's business.
How we learn.
That is business.
Somebody just said to me the other day, they're like, oh yeah, he's going to have to learn the hard way. It's like, does anybody learn the easy way?
Right.
I don't think anybody really learns the easy way, man.
Yes.
I know I don't anyway.
Yeah.
I know that I don't.
Yeah.
So I want to segue into the real estate stuff. So what was the first property that you bought?
First property I bought was from my previous landlord. I had rented yard space and was paying $500 a month. A couple months later, I was paying him his check, and he's like, "Yeah." He started chit chatting. He's like, "Yeah, this guy that I've been lined up to buy the back half of my property, it was 32 acres, hasn't given me the down payment. He would owner finance it and all this kind of stuff." And I was like so eager to buy real estate because I had been waiting. Like I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 7th grade. I was 20 years old at this point.
It's crazy that you read that in 7th grade, bro.
God bless
me.
It is. I have that book on my desk to this day. I'm going to make a YouTube video about it. And I was so eager, and I was like, I'll give you 10 grand more. Like it was like 400. We were talking like $500,000, not down payment.
Sure.
But purchase price. And so, did the due diligence, did some BS, and long story short, I got it a lot cheaper than 500. Not a lot cheaper, but got it cheaper than the original ask. And he owner financed it for 10 years, put $85K down, and there's 10-year payment, and then there's a balloon at the end. So that was my first deal. It's raw land. It's 2 parcels, 32 acres. And I store my equipment there. It took me 2 years to develop and get to the point, 1.5 years to where I'm at right now, where it's not cash flow positive, but it breaks even with other tenants on a monthly basis. And then, so that was my first deal. And then later that year, I bought my first single family house. So as a small business owner, you need 2 years positive tax returns in order to finance for a mortgage. So I knew that at like 17, and I was like strategizing it because everyone hates paying taxes. But at 18, you start showing what needs to be shown, and got my mortgage, got my first time conventional loan, put 5% down on a single family house in Downingtown. It was 3 beds, 1.5 bath with a garage in a little neighborhood, had the whole HOA vibe and the pool and stuff. And I bought it for, I think it was $315, and I put like $35K down with closing costs, painted it, did that whole thing, eventually rented it out, and then just started going from there.
I think it's more crazy that the first deal that you did was a creative finance. Like, how did you come up with the structure for that?
Bigger Pockets was, they would talk about owner finance deals, and I was like, oh, I love this. Like, doesn't go on my credit report.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome, right? It sounds awesome. But still, man, like to this day, like I know a lot of people that have done a lot of business in real estate and still haven't done like creative deals.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like an art to it, you know?
Yes, and so I can talk about the pros and the cons.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Okay. We got to see when this is released. No, I'm just kidding. The pros are, like you said, you can get into a deal. Let's say I had a 500 credit score. This guy didn't check my credit. It was a 5-page document of owner financing or rent to own type of deal. So pros, again, like I got this 32 acres. It's all woods. I had again, I was 20 years old and didn't realize everything. So like, let's say this table's are 32 acres. I had an access road and this much land that was cleared. Now, to fit all the stuff I needed this much land cleared. So then, you can't do it with your $30,000 compact tractor. Oh, you need a skid steer. Well, skid steer's $85,000. All right. So now on top of a $2,500 payment, now I went out, you got to get a skid steer or else you're going to have to pay an actual excavator even more. So there's $1,500 and you don't realize these things. You think you can move in, rent this real quick and get it cash flowing. And then just down the road, there's just little situations. Obviously the guy's still my neighbor. So, I don't know how I want to put it, but let me think about that as we continue to talk.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Not going to pressure you.
Yeah, people can be assholes, and it is what it is. It would be a lot better, like creative finance, if your bank isn't your neighbor and whatnot, and just little situations, and we're both doing the same thing, renting yard space. So there's probably some competition there. He knew that going in. I knew that going in. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, I will say this to anyone watching, like, make sure your lawyer reviews paperwork and just follow what your lawyer says. Sometimes if you're eager, you know what I'm saying? You can jump the gun. Not that my situation's that bad.
For sure.
But at some point it's like, all right, well, this contract might not last 10 years. We might have to, get someone involved to see how we can, do a different option, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that is applicable in not just a real estate seller finance deal.
Yes.
It's applicable in anything, in a partnership.
Yes.
And, you have to have an exit in mind. There should be some form of a strategy. If everything fucking falls apart, what happens?
Yes.
Right? Like, it's really important. And I know, especially for myself, definitely speaking for myself here, like we go into things like, dude, we're optimists, right? We have all these ideas, we start businesses, we do all these things.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about the what can go wrong. We're thinking about the 50 things that can go right.
And we're
so
like,
it's very easy to be blind
Yes.
to that side of everything, but it is a very real thing. Like, what if everything goes wrong? I have these two partners. I have this, this guy that may end up being a neighbor long term that may compete in some way, shape, or form. You got to just think of all exit strategies.
Yeah, and like one thing, now I've learned that like setting up a deal with my podcaster guy, like we're going back and forth editing a contract that states everything, like even something as simple as a podcast, just because it's like everything in business, you really should have a contract. And that's what I've learned. Like if you young guys are out there listening and like take one thing, yes, lawyers are expensive, but at the end of the day, they can save you like on the front end versus on the back end. And, lawyers are an asset, I would think. Would you agree?
It's tough because you heard me as you were coming in that
Yeah.
I got a situation on a deal right now and crap happens, right? But
Yeah.
I think by and large, like the way that I like to operate, like I like to be the handshake deal kind of guy.
Really?
And it has burnt me like plenty of times in the past, but my perspective still to this day, even having been burnt on plenty of things in the past, is if I have the opportunity to do a handshake deal with somebody that is already like in my circle. They may be a friend already, or they're just a close business acquaintance or whatever.
Yeah.
And my exposure is that I may lose a couple $1,000 or something.
Yes.
If this person wants to try to take advantage and fuck me,
Yes.
I would rather learn now and basically give them that opportunity to fuck me and see what they're going to do.
I think the same way too. So yeah, there's a balance for sure. But I think that I'm the same thinking. Like if it's not gonna bankrupt me or even close to that, then yeah, let the cards be folded or whatever the phrase should be.
Yep, exactly. And now obviously you wouldn't want to do that on a business venture. You're starting with somebody or whatever. I mean, partners in general is a whole nother rabbit hole. That could be, probably a 40-hour masterclass just on that, but yeah.
What would you label it? Don't do business partnerships, or would you?
I wouldn't say that. And I mean,
Okay.
I have had a couple in the past, and I have had a couple go bad,
Yeah.
but I'm still not tainted from it, Like I've learned a lot of things. I've learned what not to do.
Right.
And really, I've reflected a lot on both of my failed partnerships. And at the time when everything went wrong, it was easy to look at it and be like, all right, well, it was because this dude didn't do this. He didn't fulfill what he said he was going to do. He didn't do what he promised. Like there was this, all these things. But in hindsight, looking back and reflecting on it, and it's like, well, what did I do that could have contributed to the problem? Or what did I not do that could have worked towards a fucking solution before there were even issues? And there were a lot of things that I could have done differently, right? Like one of my biggest things is, I let things go for way too long, like I have this mentality where it's like, well, I shouldn't have to, especially with a partner. I even have the mentality slightly with employees. It's like, I shouldn't have to fucking explain A, B, C, and D to you. Like, you know your job, you know what the expectations are and everything. And I'll kind of just let things go until I am frustrated as hell about it. And it's like, yo, man, now I'm kind of like at the point that I'm ready to explode or blow up a partnership over it, So that's one of the things that I learned about myself, that it's like, you can't do that.
Right. You do it now, you do it the opposite. Like, if you're, I agree.
When there's an issue, you got to address it. Like, it's very rare that problems fix themselves, right? Very freaking rare.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
All right. So back to the real estate real quick,
Okay.
and we'll wrap up here in a couple minutes. After you bought the land, you did your creative finance deal, you bought your first rental property, and then what'd you do from there?
So then I took a little bit of a break. Let's say that was in November of 2021. I waited a whole year, ended up hiring a coach, Troy Kearns, and through his program, I bought those two in Shamokin. It was $90,000 for 2 units, and the total rent's like $1,750 for both.
Okay.
And 2 separate
taxes are cheap there too, right?
Oh, dude, it's $600 a year. It's great. So I mean, it's great. It's what you kind of learn. Again, everything's a learning process. Like, oh, it's a little bit out of my area. So I had a shitty property manager, and you can edit this out. I don't know if you're associated with Home 365. They've had a lot of.
That's funny. That's actually funny.
Are you associated?
No, not at all, not at all. But we just did a deal like up in the Poconos somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was their property manager that we were buying a property from, and they were selling because they hated them. So
it was so tough. It was like a job to manage the manager. And you could never get a hold of someone. No one had an answer. That's all bullshit, and we'll let those people solve their problems. It's frustrating sometimes as, you're running a company, you got 2 units, and you just need to figure out why the person's not paying their dog fees or whatever the situation may be. Long story short, you learn from that. Now I have a great property manager, and I'm trying to buy more units to get on his thing. So I bought those 2. Those are cash flowing great. And then let me just think, because I've bought a lot recently. So I had those 2 in Shamokin. And then I bought a foreclosure at the end of last year, or the beginning of this year in Pottstown. Bought it for $90,000, put about $30,000 into it, new roof, new HVAC system, which was a fucking hassle. Again, you learn all these things as you start doing the business. And that one rents out for $1,850 a month. Single family, little 3-1, little rancher, like an easy type of building. My next deal was in April. I bought a 2-unit in Westchester for 5%. I put 5% down, and those both cash flow. I think my mortgage is $3,200. I got one tenant for $2,250, another tenant for $1,750. $1,750 is 500 below market, or like $750 below market. I inherited that tenant.
Okay.
So Westchester, and then I bought Stewart Ave, which is my flip, and then I just bought another single family house out in Landenberg.
Got it. That's awesome.
Hopefully
man.
that's what you were looking for, but you can ask me anything.
No, that's fantastic. It's like, you've done a lot in a short period of time and everything. But so what is your overall game plan with real estate? Is it just to continue acquiring more rentals for cash flow, or is it more to offset the tax liability from the business?
Exactly.
All the
brother.
above.
So like as you start getting into it, and you like in the first couple properties, like, oh, I'm just trying to make $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
You get 4 or 5 of these. You're like, okay, like you got a whole separate account and let it run. But then once you realize, like, when you become a real estate professional, there's so many different strategies. Now I'm gonna obviously cost segregate every single property I own and keep this year, and offset my taxes, which will be huge. Like I'm trying to buy a jet, and a jet's that's one of my goals. And like a light jet is $1 million this year. You can depreciate 80% of that. But now with learning about becoming a real estate professional, I could buy a couple $1 million of real estate or whatever I need to kind of offset my federal income taxes. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Obviously, I'm still looking for cash flow. If I buy a property like the Landenberg one, where I buy it in cash under an LLC, let's say I find a tenant for $3,000 to $3,500. Same with the Pottstown one and the Shimokins, and then I want to set up like a line of credit on them, and that's how I want to grow my real estate business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Like I was just having this conversation with somebody last week that so many people that don't really have a big active income that want to grow their rental portfolio and everything because they're just chasing that cash flow. They're like, yeah, I want to get to whatever it is. I want to offset my monthly expenses so I can have $7,500 a month in cash flow, and I'm out of the rat race, right? Speaking in rich dad, poor dad terminology,
literally,
right?
Yep.
And I don't think it's a bad strategy, because it's a positive thing.
Yes.
But you're so much better served to first build a massive active income, and then have all the other benefits of real estate. It's like, all right, cash flow, that's just the icing on the cake. Yeah. Now, I also don't want to buy things that are negative cash flow and you're bleeding out because it's not scalable, whatever. Don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at it from not just, dude, I can make an extra $300, $500 a month in cash flow.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like that's not changing anybody's life, man. Even if you have 20 of them, it's like that's still not life-changing money, right? But if it's offsetting tax liability from another entity that you already have, and you're sheltering your money against inflation, which is obviously going to be a big issue for coming years and everything, right? Yes. And cost say all those things, that's when it becomes a really, really powerful tool. That's when it's like, all right, cool. Yeah, I have $5,000 a month in cash flow from these properties, but in the last couple of years, I built millions of dollars in equity from it.
Yes. And that's what people, I think, like my brother right now, W-2 employee, doesn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know what I'm saying? And he wants to go buy his first rental, and he's doing his thing. But it's like, dude, I wouldn't even take your evenings and weekends, because what are you going to make $300-400 after the mortgage is paid in Pottstown? Like, just focus on getting your income to hundreds of thousands. Make your number one goal how to become a 1%er. I know last year it was like 420,000. This year it might be whatever, 650. Once you can do that, then you have so many different options, and then ideally do that through a business that you own, because then there's so many different tax advantages. Right. I mean, it's once you get in this realm, you just realize the opportunity, and like that's where I start drooling, because it's like there's just so much to do. Obviously, you got to do it right, but there's so many different strategies, I guess.
You got to do it right, but it's harder to fuck up when you're not trying to squeeze every penny out of it, right?
Yes.
It's like when you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and you're trying to buy at a discount,
Yep.
like a steep discount where it needs minimal repairs. And if you're off by one little thing, you're either going to break even as a rental or you're going to have negative equity or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you have too much going on, right?
Yes.
It's like if you're really just trying to park money in something that is going to yield a return,
Yeah.
it's like it's really hard to mess up in that case, you know?
Dude, 100%. All the people out there that aren't making 150 plus or $250,000 plus, like focus on raising your income. That's the number one thing you should be doing, whether it's through your job, whether it's through a side, and really it's going to be through a business.
Yep. It's absolutely going to be through a business.
You know, and then you get in this realm where you're like, all right, I'm doing this. You got cash coming in. You're offsetting your biggest expense in life, which is taxes. Mm-hmm. I would think, and that's how you start building like a multi-million-dollar net worth.
It's taxes when you're single. Then when you're married and have kids, then it's wife and kids. They become the biggest expense.
Yeah, the credit card bill at the end
Don't
of
watch,
the month.
dear. Fuck.
Yeah.
All right. So to wrap up, what would be advice that you would give to somebody that is watching today? I mean, we just kind of did. But
yeah, like
more.
That would be my advice. Is like, it depends all on the person's goals and what they want. But if you want to become successful, if you want to become worth multi-millions and like be the guy on like a yacht or maybe buying a jet or whatever your vibe is, or you want to be a guy that just wants to retire in his Florida house, you still need millions of dollars, whether that's parked in real estate or in a retirement account to do those things. So focus on your income 100% until you're making at least $250,000. In today's world, you probably need to make $450,000, and then you can start like really delegating, just like I'm parking this here, I'm parking this here. Another thing too is people get into the lifestyle. It's like you get into, all right, now I'm making all this money. Well, I'm going to go do the 25K vacation. I'm going to go do this. And it's so easy to lose principles of like, I think I'm good at this today because I started when I had that first dollar, about like putting that money in the bank and not touching it, and not like, sure, I could go out and buy all this shit, but I'm trying to push my majority of my money now in the right spots, real estate, stocks, my own business, things like that, things that are like reduce my tax liability.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I'm sure we could wrap on that for another
could,
couple hours in and of itself, right? Because it's, as you have more money in front of you, there's more temptation, right? It's like you have to become disciplined or else you're going to blow everything, right?
Yes.
Now, I do think there's something to be said, and I've thought about this a lot with hiring salespeople, running sales teams and everything. Like, there is something to be said about having increasing monthly expenses for any individual because it necessitates the need to keep fucking going, right? Like, I think about that a lot. Had I not had children as young as I did and everything, and if I didn't need to provide for my family, if I didn't need to put food on the table, if I didn't have to do what I do,
right,
I don't know that I would be as laser focused on it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree with that. Like my buddy that's 23 just had a kid, and he's like, dude, like going, it was same situation. He was like, he found out he was gonna have a kid, you know, not married, but in a long-term relationship. And like, he made all this money last year. But yeah, like increasing, and I'm sure there's the right way to do it and the wrong way, whether that's like, all right, you're worth 2.5, you have, you know, 2 in real estate, and you're using $500K of like savings or cash to build that. Like if you're a business owner, you know, hiring a salesman, they're not going to make you any money for the first 90 days, or maybe it's different like in my business. So it's a direct cost.
Sure.
And then using like maybe your lines of credit as a backup. And maybe that's when, you know, hey, we got to cut the monthly spend so we don't start working the opposite direction.
Yep. We could go down that rabbit hole too, man, with, so you look at hiring a salesperson as a direct cost initially. So you would bring somebody in and pay them a salary rather than commission?
Right.
Ooh, man.
Right.
We have to open up that a little bit. Just a little bit.
No,
just
let's
a little
do it.
bit. Why? Why do you think that?
So in the landscaping industry, per like the industry and our market, let's say Chester and Delco, you know, it's traditional to pay a person 65 to 75K. And again, the terms on the back end are where it gets interesting. And then 1% to 2% commission. So, and I know you're probably thinking in your head, well, fuck that. That's what's standard. Again, I'm looking for that person that like I can go to and be like, he has that track record or she has the track record of selling millions of dollars of design and build landscaping work. And I'm sure that person might not come over for like minimal money. I'd love to hear your thoughts and, you know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. And
so my thinking is, all right, even if I hired this person today, we got fall, 2.5 good months, but I'm still gonna have to pay that person's salary for 3 to 4 months throughout the winter when they're not like, maybe they're bringing in some money, but it's not like profiting me. I'm not going above my green line, and then getting into spring. So it'd be like, that's how I think about it. Like I need to have 25K just to push them or see if they're really worth it. I mean, and
Sure.
You know how it is. You hire a person, it could be a fucking dud.
absolutely. And I guess that's where my head goes initially, like
Right.
thinking about this is like, you said it's the norm for somebody in that role to be making, what'd you say, between 60 to 70 grand and then 1% to 2%
Yes.
of gross.
Yes. And that's, it depends how you structure. I was going to structure it like, all right, we're doing 1.6 to 1.8 this year. So I'm going to hire you on with us doing this. That your salary, you have to meet 1.8. I'm not going to go backwards. And then anything after that, you can then get like commission off of. So, and maybe the commission's a little bit more. I don't know. They also get obviously a company vehicle.
Sure.
All that shit.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's super interesting. Like, is there even the ability to hire somebody that doesn't have experience at all and have them be successful without a massive like onboarding training type
Without
thing?
12 months of just pouring your energy into someone.
Is that what it would be?
It would be a 12-month period, yeah. Like same thing with my assistant. It's like a full at least 12 months until like they've gone through a whole season, so they know how this season works and these. You know what I mean? So
Got it.
that's what it would take, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather pay the money.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. If that's what it is, like, one of the first people that I ever hired in a sales role, I did exactly that, and I paid like a $60,000 a year salary, and I was an idiot, right? So not only was I paying him way higher than what the norm is in this type of role, in this type of position,
Right.
but I was also paying a higher fucking commission rate too than
Yeah,
like
so you
the
can get
norm.
fucked, yeah.
It's like I was getting screwed every which way. And at the end of the day, after 3 months, he never closed a single deal or anything. And it's like, all right, time to pull the plug,
And then how much did it cost you? Probably easily 10 or 12 grand or something.
Yeah, I guess, they're probably $15,000
Yep.
or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, that sucks. And I've still always been like, there's a lot of people in the wholesale industry don't do any sort of base pay at all, and they do just straight commission and everything. I've done that in the past as well.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't love that. I like being able to give some sort of a base as well.
Right.
That comes down to just management strategy and some of the just internal ways that I like to build things. But I do feel that anybody in a sales role should have the majority of their income coming from commissions rather than base.
Right. So, yeah, I got to really think about how I want to structure it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to take an experienced person from somewhere that's already producing millions, has relationships, and just copy and paste in it. Like I want to sit down in an interview and that person say, I want to tell a person what I'm looking for and be like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Like that level type of thing. Like my project manager, Wes, owned his own business for 20 plus years, went and worked for a bigger outfit than I, brought him on. And there's just things of experience that I might not even see every day that like, this is how we're doing it. And it could be saving me money. Now, obviously there's ways of, how individuals did it for themselves. That's like, well, fuck that. I'm paying 5 guys to, you better stay, or whatever. So there's pluses and minuses.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, we could go on this all day, man,
I
all
know.
day, and that's like I said before we started, I wanted to have some talking points in the 1 in a million chance that we didn't have any talking points.
Right.
That would never happen.
Right.
But so to wrap this up, you're big on social.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
People can literally Google my name, Chase Gallagher. On Instagram, I'm Chase_Gallagher. On YouTube, Chase Gallagher. LinkedIn, Chase Gallagher. TikTok, Chase Gallagher. It's all CHASE space GALLAGHER.
Boom.
Boom, there it is.
Love it, man. And if people want to learn more about CMG University, is there a specific place for that, or just follow you on the platforms?
Follow me on the platforms. Go to TikTok or Instagram. Shoot me a DM directly, and we'll get in touch.
Boom. Love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
People ask me all the time, like, well, why did you like slow down on buying rentals and everything? And it's like, well, it's not that I really slowed down on buying them. It's that I was just laser focused on the acquisition machine, because no matter what, no matter how you slice it, the acquisition is the first piece of the puzzle, no matter what, hands down. Doesn't matter what your strategy is.
Right.
Doesn't matter what your history or experience is. That's step number one.
Right.
So if you master the hell out of that and you create a machine out of it that can print money and print deals, then it's like, it doesn't matter if you buy it to rent it. Doesn't matter if you want to flip them. Doesn't matter if you just want to continue wholesaling them and assigning. Right. It's like you have the deal machine at that point.
Right. My old real estate mentor, his program was basically just telling everyone, like, just be a deal finder and everything else follows behind it.
Dude,
and he's
so true.
And he's so right. Now, it's not as easy. I mean, I'm sure you could talk about that. Like, I try to be like a driving for dollars and wholesale, but I run a landscaping business. I do this. So I gave it like 6 months. Wasn't worth the time. And, you know, you realize the type of effort you got to put into it once you start.
Yep. Absolutely right. Did you generate any deals out of it, though?
I did not generate a single deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a lot of potentials, and I would, you know, like go meet with a husband and wife that wanted to sell this one-off townhome that they had a bad experience with in Thorndale or whatever. But like, it was just not any deals closed from it.
Got it. Yet.
Yes. Still, I was just thinking about that. I'm still working this one guy, Ron, out in Glenmore. I gotta, you know, he's a commercial building, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. And especially when it is a lead you generated from some sort of organic source, like, yeah, man, stuff takes time to close sometimes. But if you already have that relationship, my sales team hates me because I've been beating this dead horse for like the last month.
Right.
I kind of get on a kick for like a month at a time. And it's like, this is what I'm going to preach. This is what I'm going to drive.
Like a new topic.
Yeah. And this last shit, it's probably been more than a month now. I've been preaching the hell out of relationships.
Right.
You know, because it's like everything we do in wholesale, it's very easy to look at as just transactional, right? Like we have a seller, we buy a house from them one time, cool, never talk to them again. Right. And even during that sales process, when we're under contract and getting everything clear with title, trying to get to the settlement table and everything, it's very easy to just be transactional. It's like, you know, our sales rep gets the contract back, and then from there, it's like they only talk to them when we need something or when we're scheduling settlement. It's like now I want there to be a lot more focus on, no, have a fucking relationship. Like Chase signed this contract with you last week. There's no updates this week. There's nothing going on. Call to see how he's doing, see what's going on.
Yep.
You know, like this is an emotional thing for a lot of people. If it's a distressed property, we're taking away a headache of theirs in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like call them, just talk to them, build that relationship. And that matters so much, man.
Dude, 100. I couldn't agree more. I'm all about the relationships. That's why like I'm doing this podcast. Yep. That's why I do all my social media. Cause it's like, once you get on social media and just start posting random videos, it's kind of crazy who you don't realize, but who ends up watching or reaching out. And then next thing you're meeting these people or whatnot, and you're building relationships on like a leverageable like way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So let's start right there with that. So